Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about toxic culture and how to change it. Welcome to Invincible Innovation Live Show. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm Mazor, Kario, product innovation and value creation expert, and I'll be your host. And today I have a very, very special guest, Candace. Hi, Candace.
Hi, Addie. Glad to be here. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year! We're like in the second day of 2023. Wow.
Yeah.
So, Candace Mae is the leadership and strategic business consultant, corporate trainer, and coach. She's an international best-selling author of the book Heaven Within: Restoring Wholeness for Better Leadership. And I'm sure you're going to have like wonderful talk. We're live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, and you're so invited to join the discussion and ask questions. And before we start, I just want you to define what is toxic culture or toxic leadership. What does that mean that we have a workplace which is toxic?
Yeah. Well, toxic meaning it's harmful, right? It's not healthy. It's unproductive as far as in bringing in innovative ideas. Uh, what are the symptoms? Usually, if we talk about symptoms, that's what people can relate to. If we're
Yeah,
seeing a lot of silos, departments and teams working in silos rather than connecting and working with other departments and really making sure that workflow is consistent and not repetitive. If we see uh, internal conflict constantly, that's an issue, right? Because that causes delays in product delivery or services. When we see bullying, right? That's quite obvious, right? Maybe there's a supervisor who's bullying their staff. But the tricky one about that is not everyone in large companies are always aware of that, right? Because that oftentimes that leader who may be a bully may or may not be aware that they're a bully. And second, um, how they engage with the management above them may be different than how they're relating to the people who
I,
report.
I guess that's true for sure.
Yeah.
That they will relate differently to someone who's below them than for someone who's in the management level.
Yeah. So we want to bring awareness to everyone, right? We want to bring awareness to those people who are in leadership. Are you really leading? Are you managing? Are you micromanaging to a degree that's harmful, right? Are you
Yeah.
open to hearing the feedback from your staff, from the people who are doing the work? They might have better ways of finding solutions. Are you listening to them? Or are they not allowed to share suggestions, right? That's not your job. Just do what I tell you, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, these are signs of a toxic culture.
You mentioned some of the things that are related to the point of view of the management or the corporate, meaning the performance, the results, the innovation, what we produce. And there are some of the points are from the employees' point of view, which is kind of different because they are looking for a place that would be more understanding, and it'd be a great place to work in and to be part of a group and not only to produce results. So sometimes it seems it's the opposite of what people are looking for, because if you need to deliver all the time, you probably won't enjoy it, and to a certain degree. It doesn't have to be like today, maybe a year or two from now.
Well, we always have to produce, right? That's important. But we want to be valued. Isn't that it? I mean, when you have to go to work every day and you feel like you're giving your all and there's no gratitude for what you're doing and you don't get to make recommendations or you know that there's a better way of doing things, but nobody's listening or allowing you to share, that's demoralizing, right? And that causes you to get into a rut and not really want to fully engage. So I
Right.
think creating a warm and welcoming environment is what we're striving for, right? Where people feel valued, they're excited to go to work in the morning. They're excited to feel that they're needed and they're wanted and their opinion makes a difference. Now, they may be sharing an opinion or a thought or a suggested idea. Doesn't mean it's going to be accepted, but at least they're heard, right? Their listen is considered, not just tossed aside.
And you think that the fact that potentially the organization is open to hear their opinion is more important than really exactly that they're taking into consideration each and every one of the people, because it doesn't make sense. This is why you have managers, they decide in many cases, right?
Well, always. You're always going to have a leader or a manager who's going to make the final decision, right? But just being allowed to know that they're open to the discussion, that's critical. That's staying in curiosity, staying in the discussion, knowing that you're valued and that they are considering what you have to say, not just dismissing it. Just do what you're told to do and don't ask any questions. Don't
Yeah.
you don't count, right? No,
Yeah.
who wants to work like that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
But would it depend on the type of organization?
yes.
Let's say in some cases you do need to do whatever you're
Absolutely.
told, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. That's why I call it situational leadership. The industry does matter. If you're in construction or you're in manufacturing or you're in, a service industry, a knowledge worker, those are all different, right? Those are different situations. Some of those construction or perhaps manufacturing, a factory type environment, it is going to be more, command and control. Do as you're told, and this is a line, and there's really not a lot of room for feedback and improvement, right? Because that's the nature of the job. But in the knowledge worker or the service areas where we have a lot, software development, banking, finance, all of those type of knowledge worker positions, uh, you're people are to be subject matter experts in their area, right? Oftentimes,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
even the workflow uh, could be improved sometimes by the people who are doing the job. They're closer to that level of work, and having that connection with other teams to be able to see what happens to the work that we're doing when it moves to another department or before it gets to us. Are there things that we're doing that impacts other departments? That's a crucial part of the workflow and discussion that has to be had, right? And I think matching up people's skill sets with their job is important, and it's not just the technical skills as much as there's a connection in people skills with others. And as we move into leadership, character becomes a huge part of that skill set for leading other
Yeah.
people.
It seems that we have two different sets of skills. One is what you're doing. You're a good lawyer, or a good developer, you're a good graphic designer, whatever. And in
Yeah,
many cases, this is what will make someone decide that you should be the team manager or the manager because you're very experienced or you're very good at what you're doing. On the other side, managing people is a different skill set, and most cases it's not really talked about.
exactly. That is exactly, and that's where I come in. This is the kind of training I do, moving people from the technical managerial side into leading people and leading the team. Do we know what we're looking for when we want to promote someone into a leadership role, or are we just going on that technical skill? Because it is competence in that technical area. It's also connection with other people and the character. All three of those are a huge part of leadership, and we need to identify who those potential leaders are, who would be a good to motivate other people. Motivating other people is huge in business. If you want to expand a business company into other sites, you're going to have somebody who is competent, but also is able to connect with people, right? And has a strong character and can cast a vision and carry it out. And if you're not building those people internally in your team, you're missing out because when you're ready to burst into a new office or a new location, a new market area, you've got to have people in place to step in. And if you're not
Yeah.
preparing them today, you're going to stunt your own growth.
But wouldn't you say that some of these characteristics are something that people are more talented in understanding, in communication, in collaborating with people, in motivating people? So how could you teach someone who is very, I know, I would say close-minded, maybe that's the word, to be that way with other people?
Well, I think one of the foundational things I like to do is I have a CARES methodology that I use, and that is an acronym. I develop leadership that cares, and that's through communication, right? The identifying themselves and how they communicate and what other communication styles there are, and how they may have to adjust their communication with different people, communicate in a different way to connect with people, right? And then there's that attitude. What is their attitude and how they're seeing themselves and how they see other people? There's that element of respect. Do you see people for as a 10, that they're going to perform as a 10? And then if they disappoint you, they come down the scale? Or do you say you're a 0 and you have to earn your way up to becoming a 10, right? Two completely different ways of interacting with people and seeing people. And people often rise to the level that you see them, right? And then we have, that was CA, we have R, that's relationship and retention of your employees. If you have a lot of turnover, that's another sign of a toxic culture. Or if you have a lot of people out on stress, if you were to ask the HR department to run your reports and how many people are on medical leave, right? Those are signs of toxic culture. So if you can develop those relationships around you. That's what I teach. How do you develop those relationships? How do you engage your team? How do you build curiosity and contribution, right? And how do you retain your employees? How do you can't train everyone at a deep level, but we certainly can nurture everyone. And then we can develop the team members in incremental steps. And those who are potential leaders, we can go deeper into developing their leadership style, embracing them and how to delegate and embrace, how to coach employees on growth. Oftentimes we're asked to give performance evaluations of our staff, right?
Right.
But then we have a problem with their performance. And oftentimes we'll say, you've got a problem, fix it. And that's it. That's all we give them.
Yeah.
Well, if it's a blind spot or they don't know how to fix it, that creates a problem. We're not setting them up to win. We're not setting the company up to win. So learning how to coach your employees for growth, how to put in place some plans of developing them, hiring someone like me who can come in and bridge the gap for those challenged areas, right? Those are important. And then all of that boils down to emotional intelligence, equipping your team with emotional intelligence. And that's 4 areas, right? That's self-awareness, right? Knowing what's going on in you and what you're thinking and capturing your thoughts and walking through all of that. And self-regulation. Oftentimes, if we're not kind of aware of what's happened in our life and what's gone on with us, someone can come along with a certain personality style and trigger us, right? And we can get angry and have an outburst, or we can just treat people badly. And we don't realize we're always doing it. Sometimes it's a blind spot, right? It's just a reaction. Our body holds the history and responds accordingly to events that simulate something we've gone through. And so that's where we have to become more aware. So when you get into leadership, digging into your personal growth is important to be the best leader that you can be. Again, that's why I wrote the book, Heaven Within, Restoring Wholeness for Better Leadership, right? Because that is all about healing, self-awareness, and finding those things, that the patterns in your life.
Yeah.
Through those. And
it seems like emotional intelligence is something that most people would regard it as first you were born with it, or you elaborate that, but they will not connect it to their business or to leadership in a whole. They would say, okay, leadership needs to understand finance. They need to understand what their subject of matter is. They need to understand more or less how to make people do what they want. I would say that. But it seems that it's something that most people will not even consider when they're thinking about who is the manager, who should be the manager.
And that's the most critical piece, because that emotional intelligence also is about social awareness, walking into a room and being able to read the people, what's going on with them, and regulating and managing the relationships around you. And everything is about relationships in business, right? It's all about, it doesn't matter if you're the receptionist to the janitor to the C-suite. everything in between. It's all about relationships and how we're engaging each other and how we're producing and
Mhm.
effectively managing. And then sales is also something I work
For
with.
sure. Sales, I totally agree. It's related to relationship because without it, you would not buy anything.
Right. And so not everyone can see themselves as being able to sell. So learning I do the spin model, but that's where we're using relationships and conversations and questionings and finding the need and all of that
Yeah.
to really connect with people for sales. So all of these pieces are essential in leadership, and all of them come together to create your culture. So you're either being proactive in creating a culture that you want in your company, where people come and feel like a warm and welcoming environment, ready to produce, ready to contribute and work with their team members, sharing ideas, collaborating, but realizing that manager, leader is going to be the one to make the final decision. That's the other thing I think people miss. They think collaboration means everybody getting around and having a conversation. Oftentimes, higher education is known for this, having a committee for a committee and then another committee, and everybody's getting around talking, but there's no decisions being made. And it just drags on and on. And that
Yeah.
doesn't have to be, because true collaboration is that discussion, sharing information, getting different perspectives, getting solutions, having synergy in the room to come up with better ideas. And then that leader is the one to make the final decision, but having gathered so much more
Yeah.
perspective.
I have to say that I'm from Israel, you're from the US, right? So we
Yeah.
don't have that in Israel. It's very easy for managers to decide. I never had it like my one of my clients thinking that much about the decision. It's the other way around most of the cases, that they don't consider that much and they just decide. But I guess it's related to culture and the way that you relate to your workplace, or how do you collaborate, I guess. Which is very interesting. I wanted to ask you, I read like many years ago that the number one reason for people to quit their job is their manager's attitudes and the way they are managed. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. People don't leave companies, they leave bad bosses, right?
Yeah.
And it comes down to, were they being valued? Were they being respected? Or were they being treated poorly? Right? Were they
Yeah.
being treated as if you're here to serve me, do what I say, and don't ask any questions? You're just, I own you. I'm giving you a salary and I own you. This is what you have to do. Right? And I don't think that that's how people want to be treated. And I think the younger generation moving into the working environment right now is demanding something different. Right? They're saying,
Yeah.
we know that there's value that we contribute. We know that there's more to life than a job, 9 to 5 or whatever shift you happen to be on, and we are willing to contribute, but we also want to create. Right? We want to be valued for who we are. Right?
Yeah. And I think that it seems like most people would say, okay, he left because he got a better salary, or he got a better car from the company, or whatever. And I don't think most people would think about their manager as the number one reason to go on to another place. Although when you're working daily with someone, this is a person that you meet all day, all the time, and you need to consider all the time. And it's so important that we have people who knows how to manage people,
Right?
who
Because
knows how to do it.
if you're at work all day and your boss is demoralizing you, you carry that with you when you leave the work. Right? You go home
Sure.
to your family, and your self-esteem has been destroyed all day. Right? And where does that leave you? It impacts every area of your life. So how
Sure.
you're treated at work is essential. It is important. And I think as business owners and executives, if we can begin to realize that and honor the people who work with us, and we ask the question, what is it like working on the other side of me? What is it?
I don't know if most people would love to hear that, but they should.
But
it,
that's
it,
key, isn't it?
Yeah, it should be done this way because I know maybe in big organizations they have um, once a year they collect all the information from people above you and from the people that you're managing, and then they're doing these like recaps once a year. I know, but in most organizations they are not that thorough, and they would just say, okay, this is the thing that you're good at, these are the things you should repair or make better. That's it, more or less, I think. And as you said, sometimes people don't know what to do with it, they're just stressed out, and that's it.
And there's the blind spot. What I think what you're referring to is a 360-degree evaluation, right? Yeah, and I offer
Mm-hmm.
those. That I provide those for those who want them. That's is when you have feedback. A survey goes out to people above you, people on your peer level, colleagues, and then the people who may support you. Could include vendors or customers as well, and they give anonymous feedback about you. So the idea of those 360s is to highlight any blind spots that you might have and to support what your strengths might be, and then develop a growth plan for you that really
Mm.
strengthens you as an
Yeah,
individual.
so that's the point of developing a growth plan based on that, and not just letting you know that people don't like you as a manager, and that's it.
Yeah,
Because
and
what
so
would you do?
right. Yeah. Yeah. Just to say I don't like you isn't helpful, is it? But if I get feedback of that how I'm delegating is not appropriate, or various aspects is much more. And then if we see trends, because there may always be one or two people who don't like you, but so we measure your results against as a whole, right?
Mm.
And I think as business owners and executives, it's nice to know that these tools exist, because we can't be everywhere, right? And
Sure,
it could be we have people who are a bad group and we have to let people go, right? That's very viable.
sure,
But so a senior manager may not know a middle manager's issues, but when we get those 360 evaluations back, we can begin to have a bigger picture, a bigger peer window to be
yeah,
able to really grow the company. When you get into larger companies, the huge larger corporate culture may be one thing, but each department can have its own culture. So
right.
you could have one department that's a real positive joy to work in, and you can have another team where the manager is toxic and it is challenging to work with, right? It is very hard. And so if
Yeah,
you're a senior manager up here, a C-suite, for you to be in tune with all of those, it may be hard for you to know, but there
yeah,
are tools that we can use to
yeah,
discover these things and address them is
yeah.
important.
For me, it seems that there are some people who have this very good energy that
Yeah,
they could take an energy and convey to others. I don't know if the energy is the right word, but you
it's a
feel
great word.
happy to be with them. You
Yeah,
feel that you're content to collaborate with them. And
yeah,
it doesn't matter how good they are in what they're doing, but they do understand the dynamics between people. They understand what should be done. They could go to take something from very high level and to put it on the ground. It just, you could just understand what they need, and it's all very flowing. That's what makes sense, because I have not been an employee for, I think, almost 20 years, so I don't really remember, but I have lots of clients and I see how they collaborate together. And some of these managers, they might be not like the best. I work mainly in high tech, so they might be not the best in developing or in the specific thing they need to do, but they know how to work with all these people who might be smarter than them, to get the best out of them.
yeah. That's essential. That's the emotional intelligence that those people have, a strong emotional intelligence. And I love the word energy because we all have energy and aura around us that goes into a room even before we're there. We walks in before us, and
Yeah.
either it's engaging and upbeat, and people enjoy us and want to be around us, or it's oh no, here they come, let's run the other way, right? And
Yeah.
that's a problem. If your working environment
Yeah,
there,
it
oh
is.
no, here comes Robert, let's run the other way. He's not going to be.
Yeah. And what do you think? How would you take like this energy and describe it into words that, what does that mean for someone to have this good energy when they go into the room and everybody wants to collaborate with them?
Well, that is it. It is an energy, and I think that's part of self-awareness, being able to
Mm,
attune into what is the energy we carry about us and how do we manage that energy. And I do have that skill set to teach that to someone, right? To identify
mhm,
what is that aura, what and how are you focusing your energy. I know for me, I can have uncontained energy easily, just out there, and then it can overwhelm people because it's too. So I have to focus on managing that energy and pulling it inward to center me. And then once
mhm.
I'm centered, I can connect much better with people. They're fully engaged and fully not feeling overwhelmed, right? And then there's other people you might meet who their energy is diffused. You don't even see them. They're like a wallflower. You go to
Yeah,
talk, you don't even see them, and they may be the person who's frustrated because they keep trying to talk and nobody's listening. They get spoken over, right? That's a
yeah,
diffused energy, and learning how to manage that energy so that you can be seen and heard is essential, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And do you think it's related to being extrovert or introvert, or it's not related as you see it?
Yeah. The energy is in and of itself how you manage it, right?
Mm,
So I think whether you're introverted or extroverted, knowing how to manage your energy to be seen and heard is
mm,
powerful, right? To
yeah,
have that presence.
yeah. So tell us, what is holistic approach to executive coaching? What it's I want to say, like, heaven within and holistic is words that you usually don't use in a business context. You use it like a spiritual context. So how do you do this connection? And
Oh,
energy is
that's a
another
great
word.
question. Heaven within and energy. Yes, that's true. I do believe that we're spiritual beings first and foremost, and we have a body that we happen to contain our spirit and our energy, and that these are very real places of connection. And I think what I like working with is to help people align their values with their work, to become self-aware, to identify what their values are, and for their workplace, what is the values that we have in the workplace, and are we in alignment? Do the decisions we make as an individual or as a company align with the values we say we have? Oftentimes a company may have values on the wall, and but all the policies and procedures they're putting into place violate those very values. And
Right.
are we looking at that? Because that's essential for authenticity, for consistency. So for me, a holistic approach with coaching is creating a safe environment where someone can come and have a sounding board, someone who can come and work through uh, relational issues that they're having with people at work or at home, and how that's impacting them. What is their part in those relationships? How can they see them differently? Discover what really is the core issue that's triggering you from this other person, right? That it may be something within you that needs to be embraced, and then you
Mhm.
can better manage those relationships around you. It's about learning what emotional intelligence is and how we pull it into everyday life. It's
Mhm.
about your health. Your health issues coming up are going to impact your energy level, your sustainability, how you show up at work, right? And getting in tune with all of those, having someone as an accountability partner to are you doing the things you need to do? Are you doing self-care? I have known many executives who don't even understand that word of self-care, right?
Yeah, because it's not like it doesn't produce. What is the result of it? Like, you don't
There was
have better files, better like results, business results. What is it for? You
it's
mean
an intangible.
vacation?
So it can be considered intangible in that regard. You don't have that filing system, you don't have that report to report out, but you do, in the sense that it is your health, it is your physical, it's your emotional, it's your spiritual, it's your intellectual, it's your financial. It's all of these things combined that are the report card of your self-care. Are you
Yeah.
taking time to manage your mental health, right? There are
Hmm.
so many people around you, maybe your kids, maybe your wife, maybe your husband, maybe your parents, whoever, that are even the employees who report to you. demanding from you, constantly demanding attention, asking you to resolve conflicts, showing up for them to remove obstacles. Who's showing up for you?
Yeah.
Who's meeting you in that place? Who do you have to decompress with? That's what a coach
Yeah.
does. And when we
Yeah.
take training and then we add a coach and we combine the two, we get an 80% higher level of retention of new behaviors. It's a paradigm shift. What we're creating is a paradigm shift in your thoughts. The way you look at things will change. And
Yeah.
as you see things differently, behaviors change, your results change. Everything compounds and impacts at a higher level.
Do you think that mental health is something that we talk about more after these 3 years of the pandemic, or
Yeah.
when we worked from home, or when we were more stressed or isolated?
Mental health is becoming more and more a topic of conversation. Yes, absolutely. It was increasing before the pandemic, I believe. Having worked in corporate and higher education, I know a lot of mindfulness is the terminology the universities want to use. Being aware, really, that just means bring it into your awareness. Know what's going on, around you and within you, and all of that. Taking time to live in the moment, because too many times we're we're rehashing something, an argument that happened, or a conflict that went on, and we're rehashing that in our thoughts, or perhaps we're projecting out what do we have to do, what's the next meeting we have to go to, what is the reports come in. So we're living in the past and the future constantly, right? And we're never really in the moment to say, how am I feeling? If we were just to sit and just take 5 minutes and scan our bodies and just observe, what are the sensations that are going on? What's happening within me physically and emotionally? We'd be surprised. There could be all kinds of tension spots and pain points that we're so racing in our mind that we're not even attuned to what's going on in our bodies. And, our bodies are a gift to us. Our bodies and the sensations, the feelings we have get trapped in our bodies. And when we can tap into what's going on within us, it's amazing how much revelation we have and how much we have with other people.
Yeah, I think that we get more understanding of mental health once it's gone, and I think that most people felt so much more stressed that compared to the usual routine, everything is fine, going to work, coming back, whatever, and now it's all changing. I think that it seems that people are more aware of something that was and now it's not here, or what changed during these years. That's one thing. And the second thing, I think that maybe people feel that this connection between their daily routine life in their families and what they're doing outside of work is not a contrast to going to work, and now it's like all merged, and they need to be aware that it's not like that's me at work and that's me when I go to the living room there, then I'm a new person, right? So this mix of free time and work is what made it so important for us.
Integrating all of ourselves, and understanding that when I go to work, I don't leave myself behind, right? I'm not a robot when I get to work. I'm still me. I still have the pressures of the family life and the things going on, and how do I manage them all and show up and be my best self, right?
Yeah.
And that came out in the pandemic, I think, because people now, several were either told they can't work, we're just completely shut down, and then that began to make them realize, well, how much of my identity was tied to my work, and
Right.
and now that I don't have my work, what am I, right? And how does that impact me? And
Sure.
so there's a shift in on identity perspectives. Sometimes that caused a lot of depression, maybe anger was coming out. So there was a lot of domestic violence increase during the pandemic because people were locked in, and then their sense of contribution could have been impacted, and fear arose, like what am I
Sure.
going to do for income and pay and all of these things. And so they were unable to self-regulate themselves, and that's what emotional intelligence does. It helps us to regulate, understand what's going on inside of us, and how do I manage that in an acceptable way. But I
Yeah.
think that integration is important. Integration of your faith with business. Are you a person of faith? What do you value, and how does that show up in your life? What you believe drives everything, right? And it should be driving positive relationships, and how
Yeah.
that shows up in work, right? I'm not talking about religion and pushing religion. I'm talking about authentic care for and respect for other people, right? And that
Mm-hmm.
includes everyone, and that includes their mental health. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Those conversations have become more and more prevalent because the pressures have become higher and higher. And we're still recovering from the pandemic. And here in the US,
Yeah.
there's all kinds of financial issues and things going on. And, we moved into a global world and a global uh, inventory and just in time and impact. And so with the pandemic and everything shutting down, that increased lag time, right? For now we've got,
Yeah.
delays and parts to make cars and computers and everything else, and how it's even impacting farming. Um, so I think everything is in flux right now. Is there value in
Mm-hmm.
coming back to a more nuclear supply chain, right, rather than global, right? What are the
Mm-hmm.
advantages of, like, for food, we want to buy local, right? Farm to
Yeah.
table is a big topic, right? Get those
Yeah.
fruits and vegetables as local as possible. Sure, there's some things we want to bring in global because it gives us more variety, but all the things have to be are in the process of being looked at and reanalyzed, and what makes
Yeah.
sense and doesn't make sense, and do we have local supply and distance supply, because maybe distance is cheaper in the long run in some regards, but then other times we need that local supply so that we can have them in case of another crisis.
Yeah. When you're coaching leaders, do you hear different things that they are bothered with today compared to a few years back?
Of course, we've got the remote work and the hybrid pieces, and all the pandemic issues were a huge conversation piece because the regulations were different. I think we're stabilizing more and more out of that now, but it's still a concern.
Yeah.
We did have
And
that quiet quitting where people were leaving
yeah,
the
the
company.
resignation. Yeah.
Yeah. So finding good, healthy, strong employees was difficult. It's for a while,
Yeah.
and I think we're still seeing that. But I think we have to look at what are our hiring practices too. That's a whole nother conversation, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So you mean that the consequences of the pandemic were taking into consideration, but it's not like they're seeing things differently. The fact that people can work from home, how much time do they dedicate to be in the office? Are they measuring them by results or by hours that they stay? For example, it's like it seems that it required from them to think differently about their workforce, as I see it, but maybe they don't think so.
Yes, and that's the comfort zone. Is they were forced to allow people to work from home in a
Right,
lot of environments, and then they wanted to mandate that they come back to the office. But
right.
some of them are beginning to say, "Oh, maybe we'll do a hybrid. You can work at home 3 days a week, and come into the office 2 days a week." And so, as long as we do see that you're hitting certain numbers, if you're a claims insurance claims person, perhaps maybe your reporting regulations are different and they're managing your results. Are you getting in the calls? Are you hitting the numbers? And so they're measuring your results that way as well. Uh, some jobs have to be in-house. It's not an option,
Mhm.
right?
Right, right.
Others can be completely remote, but how are they embracing that? Yes. How are they getting the results? How is everybody being active and connected? And then we have
Yeah.
some teams that work fabulously, even globally, all remote. And
Hmm.
we have other teams that struggle for people to stay connected and feel connected. And so
Yeah.
that is a new skill set that managers are being faced with. How do I support my remote team? They're not
Yeah.
here for me to watch. I can't micromanage them the way I could when they were in the office.
Yeah.
How do I know if they're getting the results? How do I know what they're going through so I can support them emotionally for productivity? That is a
Yeah.
conversation, right?
Yeah, and I think it's if we're going back to the beginning, it really reminds me of the that they need to be open-minded and open to hear different things, different point of views, and different solutions, and to be flexible in the way that they manage people, because people are sometimes unpredictable. That's how I see it.
So I did a public webinar. It's on my YouTube channel in December, and it was about
Hmm.
remote teams, hybrid teams, and
Mm.
how to engage them and things to consider. And that's youtube.com/C/Candace Mae, CandacEMAE. And you'll find that under the playlist to show if you want to
Sure.
see a deeper conversation. If our audience wants to go there and watch that, they're welcome to
Sure.
do that. Yeah.
I'll go and listen to it. Okay, so before we finalize, I have my final question. What's your number one tip for leaders today?
My number one tip for leaders is you need to grow yourself, right? You need to really connect with yourself and grow yourself uh, for your company to grow, for your team to grow. So don't dismiss your growth. What are you doing daily, weekly, monthly, right? For yourself. How are you self care, managing yourself? What are you doing to become a better connector with people? Your personal skills, your people skills. Are you developing your communication skills? Are you are you building your character? Do you stop to think about your character? Do you stop to think about what your values are and how are those values showing up every day? Or are you living in a compartmentalized life?
Yeah. Wow, that sounds really interesting and insightful. So, where could people hear more about your work and to contact you?
My website is Candace Mae. That's with an A, Candace Mae, Mae.com. And there you'll find all about me, about my services that I offer. I have some leadership programs that I offer for training and for executives
Hmm.
and leaders with teams. I love to work with women in leadership. If you're looking to advance your career rather than a team, but you want some personal coaching, I offer that as well. For
Yeah.
yeah,
So maybe next time we'll talk about women and leadership. I think it could be a whole episode about that. So I want
absolutely. And
to,
you can find more about my book on my
yeah, the
website
book.
as well. There's a tab, speaker, author, and keynote speaker, I believe, and you'll find the book
Yeah,
all about that and can
yeah,
get a free chapter. And there's a complimentary workbook that goes with it.
yeah.
So lots of resources for you.
Yeah, and the book is called Heaven Within: Restoring Wholeness for Better Leadership. So that's
Yes.
the name of the book. So thank you, Candice, for this talk. I really enjoyed talking to you, and I hope our ways will cross again in the future.
Would love
And
that.
Happy New Year, of course, to everyone and
Yes.
to you too. And to all of you change makers out there, thank you for joining me. And if you want to learn more about what I do, go to invincibleinnovation.com, and I'll see you next week with another innovative, insightful talk. See ya.
Thanks. Bye bye.
Bye.